What is happening, Chiefs Kingdom? Gary McKenzie back at you again for another episode of Gridiron Lines. And in today's video, we're going to talk about Jawaan Taylor and his new contract with the Chiefs. The Chiefs made a bit of a splash in free agency during the legal tampering period, and we'll see what kind of ramifications it has on the cap for the Chiefs for the rest of this offseason. But before we get there, I want to start with the fan shout out. So last week, I displeased many of you by suggesting the idea that perhaps Tooney could play some left tackle next year. And that was met with much criticism. People had pitchforks and torches. But this comment I felt did a good job summing up how many of you felt. And Cold Ape One says, I hate even the thought of moving Tooney to left tackle. He's a top 3 left guard. Why move him to left tackle? He was good in that one game he played, but it's not optimal to move him and get worse in the interior. And I think that this is fair. The idea of moving Tooney to left tackle is centralized around the fact that right now, even after signing Jawaan Taylor, the Chiefs do not have a starting caliber left tackle who is proven on their roster. So that's an empty space that has to be filled either through free agency or in a draft. And I'm going to show you how, Jawaan Taylor's deal might cause some issues for the Chiefs in terms of filling that position with free agency. So either they're going to move Jawaan Taylor to left tackle or they're going to try to pick the best tackle available that they can get their hands on in the draft and then make their decisions from there. The idea about moving Tooney to left tackle is about flexibility. And I think it's the same reason why they went after Jawaan Taylor. They think perhaps he could play left tackle. They're getting good players on this Chiefs offensive line that they could that have flexibility. And that's something that Andy Reid has always valued. And so we'll see what happens with Taylor. We'll see if he ends up playing left tackle or if the Chiefs are able to find one in the draft. But as of right now, that position is totally up in the air. And that is still the number one need for the Chiefs team this offseason is getting the left tackle position sorted out. But I had another comment that made me chuckle. And I just thought it was very interesting that one commenter said to keep it up and Tracy will fire me. Ryan, I am begging for your mercy. Do not fire me, please. I just had a good chuckle over this. Ryan's a good guy. I don't want him to have that awkward conversation with me where he's got to let me go. I feel secure, and I don't really know if I have to take much stock into what Mr. Don Armstrong is saying, but I had a good chuckle over this, and it just kind of gives a good idea how many people I made frustrated with my idea of perhaps using Tooney at left tackle if the Chiefs didn't have any other better option. But with the signing of Jawaan Taylor, the Chiefs made a big splash in free agency to start the tampering period. He ended up signing a 4-year deal with $60 million guaranteed and $80 million total contract value. And whenever I saw these numbers, I thought that with $60 million guaranteed and only an $80 million contract in total, there had to be a huge signing bonus. And that was exactly the case, as Field Yates has stated that Jawaan Taylor's signing bonus for the Chiefs is $18.9 million. His 2023 base salary will be $1.08 million with a 2023 workout bonus of $20,000. And then in 2024 through 2026, his base salary will jump up to $19.5 million, and he'll have annual workout bonuses of $500,000. He earns $20 million in cash each year from Kansas City. So this is exactly as I expected. The Chiefs decided to give Jawaan Taylor a large signing bonus because then they can spread that signing bonus over the cap hit for several years while reducing that first year cap number. And I'll explain why that's so important here in just a little bit. But before I get there, I want to talk about Tommy Townsend's RFA tender. He was offered the bottom end tender. So there's a chance another team may try to give him a better offer. in which case the Chiefs have the opportunity to counter. But if he leaves, they do not get compensation. There are other players that are RFA eligible, and that's Tago Winogo, Jody Fortson, Tershawn Wharton, Shane Bichelle. Each one of those four players are awaiting offers, and these players' contracts will cost a little bit of money and against the Chiefs cap. So I've seen tons of numbers for the Chiefs cap, and the problem with a lot of the cap numbers I see is that they don't include the amount of money the Chiefs are going to need to sign their RFAs to keep their restricted free agents and to also sign their draft picks. So there's two areas where a good chunk of money is going to be spent. And after cutting Frank Clark, you might have thought, or some people might have thought, hey, the Chiefs now saved $21 million in cap space for getting rid of him, for cutting him. They had about 10 million in cap space, so they should have 31 million in cap space, right? Well, not exactly, because the RFA tenders are going to cost the Chiefs about 10 million more dollars. With Taylor's contract, even though he has a low base salary, his signing bonus will be spread out through those 4 years of his contract, most likely. So his cap hit is going to be around, I would say, $5 or $6 million. And then you have your rookie contracts, and those are about $10 million. And I went through and I checked over the caps numbers and Spotrac numbers. And given those contracts that are coming in, the Chiefs are a little bit over the cap right now. And so with Jawaan Taylor's contract, I still need to see the details to see maybe if they've reduced some of his cap hit for the 2023 season. But I wouldn't be surprised to see that number around $5 or $6 million for the first year cap hit in 2023. Even though his base salary is only $1 million, he still has that signing bonus that gets spread out through the length of the contract, and probably that first year is going to be much lower than the subsequent years after that. But right now, I think Kansas City, the Chiefs, are just a little over the cap. And I'm not trying to alarm anyone because nearly every NFL team at this point in time of the season, off season, is either over the cap or right there, butting up against the cap. So this is just typical standard business as usual for a team like the Chiefs. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that they're going to have a hard time finding players or signing players or finding the cash to sign, their draft picks or sign free agents. But there are things that they need to do to kind of free up some of that space. And so here's a few things that they can do. And one of them would be to cut MVS. That cut would leave $4 million in dead money for the Chiefs and save them $7 million against the cap. That $4 million in dead money plus Frank Clark's $9 million in dead money would leave the Chiefs with about $13 million in dead money. And the Chiefs have been really good about not finding themselves spending a lot of dead money against the cap. And that allows them to maximize their dollars that they can spend in terms of acquiring new players and new talent into this Chiefs roster. So I am not saying the Chiefs should cut Marquez Valdes-Scantling. All I'm saying is that if they do, they save $7 million in cap space and have $4 million in dead money. And with that $7 million, you could, with a signing bonus, sign a pretty good wide receiver in free agency. The other thing the Chiefs could do to clear up a little bit of room is they could trade Clyde Edwards-Helaire. His dead money is about $2.4 million, while his cap hit is about $3.4 million. And so, in my opinion, just cutting Frank Clark doesn't make a lot of sense because you're only gaining $1 million in cap space. And I think that bit of money is worth keeping him on the roster for what he can bring to the table. And so, as far as Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes, right now the Chiefs don't have a lot of depth at the running back position. They have Isaiah Pacheco and they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and those are the only two high caliber running backs that the Chiefs have on their roster. and usually they run into the season with 4. So trading Clyde Edwards-Helaire would save a little bit of money, and you have to find a team that will accept that trade and take that trade and be willing to trade for him. I would have him valued probably at a 7th-round pick. So it'd more or less be the Chiefs trying to just clear up a little bit of space and maybe get one more draft pick, low value draft pick. But as of now, if I had to guess, I would say that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a Chief next season, and he doesn't get traded. Which brings me to the last 2 items, which is where the Chiefs can really clear up a ton of room. One of them is to extend Chris Jones. And I think by extending Chris Jones's contract, they could clear up about $10 to $15 million at least. And with that $10 to $15 million, that would open up the table for the Chiefs to do all kinds of things. They could sign multiple mid-level free agents at positions of need for the Chiefs, and we'll cover those positions of need here in a little bit. They could sign a top-tier free agent wide receiver. They could sign one of the better free agent pass rushers. But if you saw the free agent pass rush market yesterday during the tampering period, a lot of those pass rushers have already been taken. And so this leads me to believe that, to kind of think what I said in the last video I had, was that I think the Chiefs are going to draft 3 pass rushers in this next year's draft. I think it's a good draft to do it. And I also think that this is going to be the year where the Chiefs really hit big on a pass rusher. And we'll see if that comes to fruition. But with all the pass rushers getting picked up in free agency, there's really only one pass rusher left that I really like for the Chiefs to pick up, and that's Yannick Ngakoue. And I think that he could step in and be a good veteran uh, player for the Chiefs defense right from the get-go. And the Chiefs right now do not have the cap space to sign someone like Yannick Ngakoue, who, from most of the valuations I've seen, has him getting around a $15-16 million per year contract, about for around 3 or 4 years. And so if the Chiefs are able to extend Chris Jones, they would absolutely have enough money for a player like Yannick Ngakoue, or they'd have enough money for a good wide receiver. If the Chiefs cut Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they'd have enough money for a good wide receiver. I don't know if they'd have enough for a player like Yannick Ngakoue, but they could probably make it work, just like they spread Jawaan Taylor's cap hit over the course of his 4 years of the contract. And then lastly, one thing that the Chiefs can do in terms of freeing up a huge amount of cap space, they could restructure Mahomes' deal, convert salary to signing bonus, and essentially kick the can down the road. And the reason the Chiefs have not done this up to this point in time with Mahomes' contract is because restructuring Mahomes' deal, converting salary to signing bonus, at the end of the day, what that's doing is it's trading the future for now. And there's not a player available that is a true like a must-have player available in this free agency period. There's a lot of good players, but there's not, like a Terrell Owens. There's not a Randy Moss available. And so the Chiefs, in terms of Mahomes' contract, I think they're reluctant to convert his salary into a signing bonus, because they know that what that does over the next 5 years of Mahomes' contract is spread that cap hit out over those years and basically raise the cap of the next 5 years of Mahomes' contract to reduce it for 1 year. And so the Chiefs have not done this, and Brett Veach has not done this, I think, because he's being smart. He doesn't want to force the Chiefs to be in a bad salary cap position over the next 4 or 5 years. Mahomes' contract is great, but it can get less valuable if the total is raised, by converting some of his salary to signing bonus. And so I don't think that the Chiefs will restructure Mahomes' contract because they want to be good for years and years and years down the road. They don't want to put themselves in any bind. They think that they can build a winning team without having to do that. So I think that where Brett Veach is going to be laser focused this offseason is working to extend Chris Jones's contract, save the Chiefs about 10 to $15 million, bring in a couple more quality free agents, one or two, and then fill out the team with depth. And they can do all that if they're able to extend Chris Jones. If they can't extend Chris Jones, then it gets a little trickier, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The Bills, they ended up restructuring Josh Allen's deal, and I don't think he's been under contract for very long. So they very quickly kicked the can down the road with his contract, and they're probably swinging for the fences again. And we'll see what happens with the Bills, but it didn't pan out for them last year. But you gotta love them for trying. You can't knock them for trying. In terms of positions of need, Jawaan Taylor, I think the Chiefs brought him on board and are willing to pay him around $20 million per year. I think the reason for that is because he's versatile. They think he can play both right tackle, and they think he has a chance of playing left tackle. So they're hedging their bet a little bit. And what this tells me, as far as the Chiefs' offensive line is concerned, is that whenever the Chiefs get to the NFL draft, they're going to pick the best tackle that is available to them, whether that's a right tackle or left tackle. And from there, they're going to go through camp and they're going to try to see which player the Chiefs have on their team can fill in that left tackle role the best. I couldn't tell you right now if it's going to be Jawaan Taylor or if it's going to be a rookie, or if go ahead and shoot me if it could be a player like Joe Tooney. But the Chiefs right now are getting depth in and options in unusual ways. And I think that's what Jawaan Taylor brings to the Chiefs team. If they think he can play left tackle, they'll go to camp, they'll give him a shot, and we'll see what he's made of and see if he can do it. If the Jawaan Taylor trade or the Jawaan Taylor signing works out, this would be one of the most incredible signings the Chiefs ever had, because you're getting a starting caliber left tackle for 4 years for about $24 million per year against the cap starting next year, starting in 2024. And so the Chiefs might have gotten a diamond in the rough here. But as of now, Jawaan Taylor's been a decent right tackle, decent starting right tackle in the NFL. He is very good, a very good pass protector. Not the best in the run game, but but that'll suit the Chiefs just fine. So they will have they have a team that passes the ball a ton. And so Jawaan Taylor's strengths line up with what the Chiefs like to do. He's also very athletic. He can get out around the corner. He can be pulled. He can do all kinds of different things in terms of his athleticism. He can do things that both Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr., quite frankly, could not do. And so he's an interesting piece for Andy Reid. I don't know if he's going to play left tackle. So in terms of positions of need, I still think the Chiefs need a left tackle. But they're situating themselves such that they have flexibility along the offensive line and potential options to have a stopgap at left tackle. And that's really kind of what I was trying to hit at with the idea of Joe Tooney at left tackle. I think that this year for the Chiefs at the left tackle position, there's not a lot of players available in free agency to fill that role. In terms of the draft, there's several tackles available in the draft, but a lot of them are not start now, ready to go left tackles, especially ones that are going to be there later in the first round. And so it seems to me like the Chiefs are trying to get insurance by finding stopgap players like Jawaan Taylor that can cover left tackle if need be for a period of time before the Chiefs have a chance to get their rookie ramped up to speed and give them a chance to develop. And so I kind of think that it's going to be a stopgap year for left tackle, whoever that is still, up in the air. But that's the number one need still for the Chiefs. Find a left tackle. If they can find one long term, good. If they have to have a stopgap year, that's fine. But you better hope that that stopgap's good enough to keep Mahomes' blind side nice and safe. And then lastly, about the offensive line. So for the longest time, the Packers with Aaron Rodgers had a terrible offensive line, and Aaron Rodgers was so good in the pocket that they still didn't get a lot of sacks. That started coming to be a problem later on in Aaron Rodgers' career, whenever he could not have the same, or when he did not have the same mobility as he did in the past. And I think that the Chiefs want to have a good offensive line with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, but he's also a great equalizer for a bad offensive line. And this is why I think that, yes, left tackle is number one position we need still for the Chiefs. But even if they don't have the best left tackle, Mahomes is going to make it work. And we're so lucky as Chiefs fans to have a player like Mahomes who can do that. Nextly, the next highest position in need, wide receiver and defensive end. We'll see if the Chiefs we'll see if the Chiefs extend Chris Jones' contract, freeing up cap space, and that allows them to get a good wide receiver. I think that the Chiefs in the draft will go defensive end heavy. They'll draft several pass rushers. I think they're going to take 3, and one of those is going to pan out. In terms of defensive tackle position, this is an area where the Chiefs need some bodies. So whether that's extending Chris Jones, freeing up some room there, and signing some mid-tier quality defensive tackles, that could be one option that they pursue. And then safety, quarterback, running back, all positions of need for the Chiefs. They can find value free agents or players in the draft for those positions. But as far as talking about Jawaan Taylor's cap impact, that's all I have for this week. What do you think of the Jawaan Taylor trade? Or sorry, I keep saying trade. What do you think of the Jawaan Taylor free agency signing? Do you like the 4-year deal? Do you think it's a little too rich for your blood? Do you think he can play left tackle? Do you think he's going to be starting right tackle? What do you think about the Chiefs having a stopgap at the left tackle position for 2023? Or do you think that Taylor is a long-term option? Personally, I think it's going to be a stopgap year at left tackle unless something very interesting happens in the draft and a player falls to the Chiefs, where the Chiefs are able to move up a little bit and get their guy. But all that said, I'm curious to see how this pans out. And I never saw Jawaan Taylor coming. I did not expect the Chiefs to go out and sign him, and I was impressed whenever they did. And I've heard a lot of good things since. Not a world beater by any means, but seems like a solid player, and that's what the Chiefs need. They need solid players to surround Mahomes with. But that's all I got. Thanks for keeping me honest. Keep doing it, keep commenting. And if you like what you see here, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, like the video, do all that good stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks again. As always, this is Gary signing out.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.